We're doing it different this time, so we have to. So who hasn't shared who'd like to? Yeah.
You know, I had a couple things come up this week, and you know, I know pretty much what my scripts are. What happened in maybe 3 different situations. I found myself uneasy. The first glitch, you know, was just being uneasy, and I didn't take it too much farther than that. But I thought about it a little bit, and then I talked to the little guy, you know, and I asked him, you know, what are you uneasy about? And he said, you'll never be valued. You know, I'll never be valued, and I'll be treated with indifference. And so, but I found my resistance behaviors, if they went that far, was to be valued, I would try and save the situation.
Go to any lengths, yeah.
What's that?
Go to any lengths.
Go to any lengths, do anything to be uncomfortable. You know, I'd totally be uncomfortable with the situation, but do it anyway because it all risks being valued or not treated with indifference. What was another one? Yeah, just the rescuing and being uncomfortable with the situation.
Little kids, you know, little kids and children, and external children, who are always bad and troublemakers and all that, okay? They'd rather be hated than treated with indifference. They will get your attention, you know?
You know, it was just wild to see this week, and I didn't have to take it any further. But, you know, we had a nice little dialogue going, and it didn't mean I wasn't uncomfortable. And but the kid was terrorized and terrified, and I was terrified to even share today. You know, I didn't want to come today, and but I'm here, and it's okay. I don't know, it's pretty long. This work is well, and Jay really helped me out with what he was sharing about. I always thought the glitch was my allergies or something. Really had no idea. And you know, I thought, well, I sit quiet an awful lot. I've been meditating for a long time, and I thought, well, that'll take care of it. You know, but I was sitting on my kick trying to punch me in the ass and say, you know, just get to work. You know, do you want to be uncomfortable or do you want to, you know, go to work, be free? And this week I felt a little degree of freedom, you know, just a little bit more than I had before, and it felt pretty nice. But anyway.
Now, meditation can be a real feel-good, ego-building form of isolation.
Absolutely. It still feels good.
Oh yeah, it does feel good, but I'm just saying that pay attention to a clever kid will meditate to make isolating okay. Oh, I'm not isolating, I'm meditating.
You're on today.
No, it's true. You know, we can get more sophisticated. They find ways to.
Oh yeah, they just tricky a little bit.
They outbreak the resistance behaviors. When that doesn't work, we take it up a level. You know, a little more trouble, you know, but you are. Yeah.
We did a meeting this week with some parents, and it definitely scripted it for me because and I recognized it immediately. But it was such a close meeting, physically and everything, And the wife, the mother was also in script. So the two of us were in script, but there was no way I could leave. But I carried it around, I'm still carrying it around, what had happened. Which in the scheme of things wasn't a big deal, but because of my script, it was a big deal. What do you suggest that I do in that, because it's inevitable, and when I have those again, those meetings again, what would you suggest I do? Because there were three of us in scripted there.
In the moment, if you can't excuse yourself, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact is that you need to have your spiritual adult in here before you go into the situation. That's always the answer, is to get as much spiritual adult as you can in here and then go into the situation. And
but you know, Adele said something that I had forgotten about, was the critical parent. And you know, I'm wondering, because I was just trying to take care of my kid, but not recognizing that it was also a critical parent that was sort of causing some of this. So maybe a dialogue with the critical parent.
there's only one dialogue to have with the critical parent, and this is kid work again, and we're not going to get into this, but there's only one dialogue to have with your critical parent. Liar! Shut up! That's the only dialogue we have with the critical parent. But that's in the kid work.
Nonsense helps me because then I don't have a conflict. I don't have to be right. It's just it's nonsense.
Just don't listen to critical parents. How are you doing, Wendell?
Yeah.
I'm fine.
How's the kid?
Oh, I'm in kid all the time.
Yeah, how are you doing with the work? Have you got the list of resistance behaviors and scripts, and have you learned to recognize? Are you working on that?
I'm struggling a lot.
Okay.
I have some lists, but it's I don't know.
Do you have somebody you trust that you can go through with?
Well, that's one of the big issues. No, I don't really trust anybody. And that's come up through a lot of my behavior and wondering why I react to people and don't get close to people. And I try to, and the reality of it is that I always get fearful, and I think that I'll be I guess pushed away, or locked in the cellar again, or so I don't really try anymore. It's hard. It's hard.
Can we help you find somebody that you want to do the list of 10 things with? Anybody in this room is available for you. Come on.
Well,
When you're ready.
okay.
Okay. Don't hesitate to call me.
Okay.
All right. We got 2 sets to do today. Let's share that more than one is really easy. Yes.
I'll go. It doesn't seem to matter how many times I do this work, but there's something radical I can go down. I found myself in my 10th step, like nightly review. Sometimes I'm really, critical of people that were close to me. And I didn't recognize it right away, but it turns out really judgmental of people that had been, catching me to work with. Like nobody was doing it right. And I was just getting on this superior high horse, which it didn't dawn on me until a little later. I had uncovered in my recent list of events as one of my resistance behaviors. You know, it's being, you know, super competent and when I thought about it, it's like, who would want to be around me? Certainly not me. And it's all about, I'm going back to work this week. You know, it's Dark Tuesday, and I'm terrified. Or my kid is anyway, and I was not admitting it at all. So I'm thinking that's the story now. That's what my script is. I'm not going to do it right. And I went seriously interfered with a couple of relationships. Not looking right at it and taking it as the truth. And yeah, it could be a scary situation, but I'll get through it, and it's okay. It was good. Oh no, this will be fine. I'm not worried about it at all. People were asking me about it, and I'm saying, oh, I'm ready. I'm good. And you know, I'm not. I'm not good. I'm not ready. I am scared. It could be awful. You know, I could fall apart. You know,
All kids.
yeah. So. The work is helping me. The first couple of weeks of the workshop, every time I do it, I'm just really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And then something starts working, and I can get grateful. I can get grateful. I'm a little dismayed. I can't, you know, lock it in, but I have to keep doing it over and over again. And anyway, that's where I am. I could relate to what I was talking earlier about, I don't know if it was directly about procrastination, but it's about not doing the one thing I know is going to make me feel better, like finishing something so it won't bother me, so I won't have nightmares over it. And
See, right there's an opportunity to work.
that is.
Whenever that comes up and you find out you're not doing it, you can work with the kid right there. There's an opportunity. Whenever it comes up, you can work on it there. This is a workshop. I mean, this does not. Yeah. This does not go away.
It's messy.
No, it's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard. Scared kids.
Yeah.
Terror. It's just hard.
So the fact that I would act out, and I don't think it was that nasty to people, but that didn't check with a couple of people. And I've got some, I've got some talking to do with some others, because it's not outright amends, at least, apologies. Anyway, is that, I'm afraid I won't do it right, sir. I'll never get it right.
I don't know. I speak too.
Okay.
Well,
yes, Mary, and it was interesting to me doing this, not doing the work, doing life, this last month or so. The most visceral search came up after doing this work, or trying to be conscious of my scripts now for 3 or 4 years or so. The ones that came up first, every way that you described it. They were life-threatening, whatever. All of that was true, and I thought those were the biggies that they were going. And the one that just came up in the last month or so, it took me a year to even put the right words to it. I mean, I knew it was there for a long time, and I couldn't put the right words to it. And that one was so deep and so compelling that it just surprised me that it took me that long to identify it. So that's one, but it's not active all the time. I mean, when it was, boy, it was killer. And then what you said, what's her name? Chuck. What you had said about going to any length to whatever it is, be approved, not be great, whatever. It's probably become very obvious to me lately, like, I self myself because I'll go to any length to avoid, that route. So I'll be trapped in that behavior. And so it's really been low-grade grief with spikes of deep unhappiness. I mean, that's and unfortunately, that's the best it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I am.
Good. Stay close. I think everybody shared.
I didn't, but I didn't have the time.
I'll call.
Yeah.
I gotta work on it.
Next week, start out. Now, the only thing I did some work on my neighborly value script, and it's been really good progress with that, that recognition. And then one of the, the resistance behaviors I do so many volunteer activities show, counseling out a big one, and I'm okay with that. And I also like, trying to work with how can I value myself. And for some reason, I always kind of had a hiccup of buying something, and a really neat realization came to me, kind of like when parents split up and the father picks up the kid and just buys them and takes them to Disney. And that's not what is needed. And what I'm doing is I'm depriving my kid of time. And it was probably obvious too for the past 5 years. And it was crazy. So I scheduled a 15-minute date with her every morning to do drawing, because that's what that feeling in here, gets her real excited, and it was really cool to look out. And I couldn't believe the first day I set out to do it, I even got the book out to make sure. And I kept getting caught up doing other things, and it was like this screaming in my head said, you can't give me 15 minutes? You give everyone else every minute, but you can't give me. And so it was huge. I put that timer for 15 minutes, and we sit down and record. And it's been a world of difference. So there was some progress.
The thing about it is valuable. The most valuable thing we have is time. It's not money. It's time. If you want to show somebody you value them, spend time with them, and they'll get it. But dropping a $100 bill on them won't get them nearly as much.
Yeah, well, I got my I got stuff to do.
Cool.
To be honest,
you didn't share.
So you have nothing have time or not?
Yes, we do have time. We always have time for this one. You didn't share last week either.
No. So I appreciate that. What came up to me last week that I've been working on all this week was last Saturday morning. Chuck and I were sitting downstairs, and he went upstairs, and I got annoyed. We don't spend much time just having a meal together. So instead of asking him to come down, I went to the fellow dialogue. And he knew that I was there and was getting excited, and that was great because I got to have some more of that dialogue. And that's when it gets my attention, is when I did it. And I think I come loud. So I got to sit down the night, and I'm not sure yet. I mean, definitely, that it came down to we talked about it. I couldn't ask for what I wanted. It just came down to it. Just bottom line. Still don't get it. I don't want to break it down. That it comes close. I don't want the true underlying one.
That's probably not what's under not being able to ask for what you want.
See, that's what I'm thinking. So that's what I'm working with right now. So I don't have something else. And I know what it feels like not to identify the script. I'm looking at resistance behaviors. I'm going to anyone not to ask for it. And I'll be agreeable. Somebody else said that. I wrote that down. It's being agreeable. Just for the sake of being agreeable, it's easier.
Ask the kid what'll happen if we ask for what we want.
Well, what I got to do this week was I'm working with an insurance company about thunder render. And last time this situation came up, my car sat there for a week before the even got started. It was hard. And so before I even talk to them, I'm already in dialogue about what specific county, this can happen. And I look at it myself. I mean, it's right like my office, I'm with it.
and fulfilling inconvenience because that sounds like kids, so it will be some work established. And so when I got on the phone with them, I said, you know what would really be great is if I could have you look at the card first, give me an idea based on your examination. I know you can't tell everything at first chance, but just get a clue of what you might need and let me know if you have it, because if you don't have it, maybe you could order it for the one you can. If I could then bring the card in. I asked for what I wanted. That was so easy. After I realized that I could, but getting to that point was very painful. Extremely terrifying, so to the point where I was not in that I couldn't even do that. And now that that has come to the surface, I am going to go to anyway. I'm still in the same.
Sure.
So.
And ask her. What'll happen? I mean, obviously the answers will get rejected, but what's the particular form? All scripts are rejection scripts.
Right. So there's something like that. So I'm delighted to know that that's going to be
Cool. Good. All right. Open your books to step 2. We're going to do step 2 and step 3. Step 2 is really very straightforward. It's something we need to be aware of. It'll become pertinent later on. Let's read step 2. Let's just go around and read the paragraph at a time, or however much you want to read. And when if you have a question, jump in. I'm just going to let us read until it's done. But if you want to ask a question or say something, like jump in.
Sure. Step 2, analysis. Every uncomfortable situation involves script. If we're uncomfortable, someone is setting someone up to read his or her in the script. We need to be able to tell whose script is in there.
If we're experiencing emotion, it's ours. We're setting someone up to read our script, and we need to go to step 3. If they are experiencing emotion, it's theirs. They are setting us up to read their script, and we need to go to step 6. We can try to avoid reading it to them, to save ourselves from getting into our own script, to help them by showing them that their script didn't get fulfilled. We can only do this if we are able to stay in spiritual growth. If not, we may need to get resistant.
If both are experiencing both are in script, we're setting each other up for a karmic dance. If both are in script, split, separate, they're out of there. Nothing can be accomplished until at least one person has some spiritual adulting here.
Step 2 is mastered when we always recognize the script is in gear and always know whose script it is. We can also begin looking for fantasy scripts. You may remember that fantasy scripts are the stories we tell ourselves that things are going to be different in the future. We made up these stories to give ourselves hope that this intolerable series of events won't go on forever. We're desperate for hope. We try over and over to find someone to read our fantasy script. We keep going out there looking for someone who will change the ending of the story.
The problem with fantasy scripts is that they don't happen. Nobody will read our fantasy script. We're manifesting our fear, not our need for hope, because we believe our fear, not that we'll get our needs fulfilled. We need to identify our fantasy scripts so we can give them up. They cause nothing but grief. They sustain our hidden scripts. They give us false hope that's allowing us to avoid the work.
Okay? So analysis is really simple. If you're uncomfortable, script is happening. If you're emotional, it's yours. If you're not, it isn't. If they're emotional, it's theirs. If they're not, it isn't. If you're both emotional, you're both in your script. Neither of you is emotional, you're not uncomfortable. So it's really quite simple. And the deal is that if you're in emotion, you go on to step 3, which is what we're going to take up just in a minute. So that's really pretty simple. And if you're not in emotion, it means, if you're uncomfortable, if somebody's talked to you, and you're really feeling uncomfortable, but you're not emotional about it, it means that they're trying to get you to read their script. And The kindest thing you can do is stay there and listen to them and not read their script. But that takes a lot of spiritual adults. So you may need just to remove yourself from that situation as gently as you can in order not to get into your own script. Okay? Yeah.
You know, I had an experience this week where I was working. One of the people started talking to me about an uncomfortable situation of theirs in school. And I could see they were in script because, they started getting tears in their eyes and they're getting all emotional about it. And that was what you said about having a lot of spiritual adult here. That was really hard not to get into it with them. And, I was setting up my power tools and stuff, so I just started to vacuum up and started vacuuming, it'd be easy for me just to start going, oh man, that's terrible, I had a dick, and whatever, so anyway, but.
Yep. When we get to step 6, we'll talk about not reading other people's scripts again, but for now, just recognize that you can be uncomfortable and it can be their script, and be aware. All you need to know now is if you're uncomfortable and you're not in emotion, that person is trying to get you to read their script. And it's a very aggressive thing. It will be very difficult for you to not do that, okay? Which is why you may want to get away from there.
Well, the thing that helped me too is that just that irresistible urge to say something unloving. Is that just a clue that he's radiating?
That's what we guarantee. Yeah. If you want to say anything, the way you avoid reading the script when you don't know what the script is you avoid saying anything that could possibly be taken as rejection. Yeah, what an order. Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
I know this is a specific situation, so you can tell me it's not appropriate, but my social karma dance is my parents, so I live with them. And they're always saying comments like, well, see you sometime, or, I guess I'll see you someday, I'm not going to be around. And I can tell that they want me to read their script. And I'm getting better at just saying, okay, and not, but I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to make them feel rejected. So I guess I'm just curious how you can respond. It's their script, but I don't want to necessarily make them feel bad. And I'm trying to resist from making comments back, which are unloving, which is sometimes the way I'll do it. But I don't know. I guess it's just...
Well, I have to be in the situation. Maybe saying as little as possible might be the wise thing to do. Restraint of pen and tongue might apply here. The fact is that you're not responsible for what they feel, and you can't do anything about that anyway. Somebody... I don't know what I say. The fact is I would never think about it, and whatever I say would just happen automatically. If you have spiritual adults in gear, you're responsible to be loving. And if you don't have spiritual adults in gear, then I'll just say as little as possible. And if they say something like, well, I guess we'll see you sometime, just smile and you bet. That might work. I don't know. Did you have Michelle?
My sister does this. She tells me these elaborate stories and very emotional. And I know now she wants me to read the script. She pushes and she pushes. And we finally came up with, you were doing the best you could. That's fine. And she likes that. She likes, yeah, okay. And then it stopped. So that's a good one.
They found a way. Yeah.
Okay.
And some passionate things to say, and only a spiritual adult would know that, so you have some spiritual adult in you. Before I forget, there is no class next week, and next weekend is Tony's workshop, and many of us are going to be there, so we won't meet again for 2 weeks. And so let's read about responsibility, because that's what I want you to be working on for 2 weeks. Not analysis. So what was next? Please read paragraph 2.
Especially when there's responsibility. That's the beginning of getting free. This is the good news, bad news. Good news, bad news, bad. The bad news is that we, our kids, wrote our hidden scripts and we are radiating them. We are God. The good news is that if we wrote them, we are spiritual adults, we care not. We can offer them a solution.
The second possibility is accepting the spiritual axiom that our experience is the opposite of our own belief. We experience nothing that is not contained within our own consciousness. We don't accept this and continue to blame it on them. We're at their mercy, and there are more than 6 million of them.
Accepting 100% responsibility means accepting that I am doing this to myself. The script event is the absolute strength of my belief. I, my ignorant kid, wrote my script by attaching to erroneous beliefs. I am radiating my script. I am attracting my needles, and especially they are powerless of reading my script.
Okay, now hear that. That's what it's all about. I'm the complete, the only, the unique, the entire cause of all my misery is what accepting responsibility means. And it's because I believe script. And so I radiate it and attract the people who are going to read it to me. And they come to me and they powerlessly read it. You don't have the power. We just talked a minute ago about having to have a lot of spiritual adulthood here, not to read somebody's script. Well, you're setting them up to read your script, and if they don't have a lot of spiritual adulthood here, they are going to read your script. And most people don't have a lot of spiritual adulthood here. So that's the focus. Okay, next paragraph.
The good news side of the story is to another 100% responsibility. We must accept that I, like his image, am 100% responsible for causing all the misery in my life. I, my spiritual adult, am the only one who can end my suffering. I am 100% responsible for being my own solution.
So, we said earlier, the good news is if I'm completely responsible for it, then I'm capable of completely curing it. And this is going to have a step further. Not only can I resolve all my misery, I must. Nobody else can. It's mine. So the responsibility is the central part of this work, and you probably won't master this during the next 2 weeks. Often. We thought this takes longer than 2 weeks. Go on. Next.
Accepting responsibility has nothing to do with guilt.
Listen to this.
No one is guilty in script. The script was written in ignorance. If we had known better, we would have done better. We are powerlessly radiating it. That's how Axiom 2 works. Our needles are being attracted by our script, and they are powerlessly reading them. No human being has the power to resist reading scripts that are being radiated at them. If you just said spiritual adult,
Read the next sentence.
Oh, I'm sorry. And refuse to read scripts.
What is Axiom 2?
Well, go back and read the list of actions. Please.
1A, to accepting responsibility is to examine the list of script events made up earlier. When we see the same experience repeated over and over with different people at different ages under different circumstances, we begin to realize the only thing that is constant from event to event is ourselves. We must be attracting our script readers. If we can't see this, in our list of 10 events, we can keep a daily diary of emotional events as part of our nightly inventory. We may be able to discover the repetitiveness of these events by studying this diary.
In our list of the 10 worst experiences includes one or more events that happened during infancy or early childhood and have been repeated throughout our lives. This raises an interesting point. It must be our script because we are the only common factor in all these events. So we must have come into this lifetime with the script, since there was no previous traumatic experience in this lifetime that led to this script. It's very difficult for most people to accept any responsibility at all for their own childhood abuse and molestation. But when we understand that we wrote the script in a previous lifetime as a result of the trauma we experienced then, we can begin to see how, even then, we were radiating a script that we brought into this lifetime with us. We can begin to accept the spiritual axiom that we were responsible for our experience. If you can go there right now, just look at the script events in your life since you became a teenager and work on accepting responsibility for them.
Okay, anybody want to listen? Anyone want to say anything or ask anything about that so far?
I could not get this one. And what really helped me, I couldn't because I had infancy abuse. What really helped me was to know that I just made false conclusions. This is where I had to start. That happened in infancy, and I made false conclusions about life based on that incident. The accepting that it is, I did come in with it, came later. And this was really hard.
It's especially hard for people that have early script events.
One of the only ways I could get through it is to believe that it was my reaction to it now, not what happened then. Not letting it dictate what my life is like now. And I can't control what happened then, but I can control my reaction to it now. Usually.
So this is just referring to any of your scripts which come from things like molestation, the things that happened in your infancy that you didn't necessarily control.
All I'm saying is that if you had script events when you were very young and there was no traumatic event in this lifetime that caused that script, that doesn't make it not a script because it can happen. It could have happened, the traumatic events happened in the previous lifetime. That's all it's saying. The reason we focus on this particular topic is most people really don't like to accept responsibility in this sense for early childhood molestation. That's why, of course, they don't. It's very difficult. And certainly human consciousness and the consensus will have you a victim. And the point here is that if you had 15 traumatic script events of abuse in your lifetime, up to last year, let's say, and one of them happened when you were 2, but that really is a pretty good indication that you brought that script in with you. Yeah. In fact, what this does is recruit past lives, because that's the only explanation we can come up with for the fact that this keeps happening to us and it started early.
Lee, does the degree of clarity that you see your scripts change the degree of responsibility that you accept that you wrote them?
No. I mean, the degree of clarity that you see how script works is what we're trying to attain here.
Because I know my one script, or the one with being valued and treated with indifference, I saw that pretty clear. And right when that happened this week, I mean, there was no question about who was responsible for it.
In that sense, yes, it does. I mean, if you see your script clearly and see how it works, but you have to see the dynamics of it. Just seeing that you're seeing clearly that you're having a script event after script event doesn't in any sense imply responsibility. But if you understand what we're trying to explain in this workshop about what the dynamics of script are, it's the dynamics of scripts that allow us to take 100% responsibility. And the reason is, the hard thing is to accept the fact that someone that is doing it to you is doing it powerlessly. Rather than intentionally or evilly or maliciously or anything at all. Even though the events may be malicious or evil or whatever, the fact is that the dude is doing it powerlessly. You attracted him, and he's reading your script, which is the only thing he can do because he's human. That's the hard part. Okay, next paragraph.
As another aid to accepting responsibility, we can watch for our own powerlessness over reading someone else's script. We may find ourselves saying things that we know are untrue or hurtful, even as they come out of our mouths. It takes a spiritual adult to not read scripts.
If we are alert, we may be able to see how others actually manipulate us into reading their script. This practice will help us understand that our needles, too, are powerless, which helps us accept responsibility. We can also begin to try to notice how we set up others to read our script, often through our resistance behaviors, and how they set us up when they are in motion.
Pay attention to that. Watch how your resistance behaviors result in people reading your script. If you have an abandonment script, try clinging.
That'll work.
Yeah.
I mean, usually the resistance behavior to an abandonment script is clinging, and of course clinging is exactly what drives them away. Being clung to is very uncomfortable.
I was able to yesterday catch a resistance behavior. I have a I'll never be valued script, and one of the things is my husband not doing it timely. And, you know, because if you value me, you do it timely. And you do it now. And I usually nag. And so I felt that desire to really nag. And I stopped. I didn't do it. And I meditated. And I really got into drop all concern. So it worked for a short time. I didn't ever do that resistance behavior, but then I radiated it later, which is sad. But it did work, catching resistance behavior.
Okay, let's go on and read the last couple of paragraphs and look for homework.
Step 3 is mastered when we always accept 100% responsibility for all script events. This may take quite a bit of work, but it is essential to master this step completely. Without accepting 100% responsibility for all our script events, we will never get to forgiveness, and that's where the pain goes away.
Okay, let's just read the practice bullets. Just read the whole thing, and then we'll talk about that later too.
Okay. Practice. We work on accepting responsibility for each script event that is ours. We see if we can accept responsibility for it by recognizing that it is our script, we are radiating it, and they are powerlessly reading it. We look back to see how we set the events in motion which led up to the script event. We bring an example of how we set someone up to read our script to the next session.
Please do that so we can share about that in the first hour. Okay.
Practice recognizing when others are having script events. We observe that we are uncomfortable, we are not in emotion, and they are in emotion. We look for cases where we are unable to resist reading someone else's script. We bring an example showing how we were set up by another to read their script to the next session, and we continue our nightly inventory practice.
Okay, so read this list every morning when you get up so that you keep it hot. And go back a couple of pages to the practice on the analysis. I'm going to read one thing to you. Begin making a list of fantasy scripts and learn to recognize them. Try to catch yourself going back to the same person, hoping they will act differently this time. The definition of insanity, repeating the same action, hoping for different results. Right. Notice when you're fantasizing about the situation being different than it is, or that everything is going to be all right when something external happens. Okay, so start looking for these. But especially start looking for the cases where you keep going back to the same situation, wanting to be different. Like being 50 years old and going home to your mother and expecting and wanting her to love you and provide you with all the warm fuzzies, when she hasn't done it for 50 years, and in fact spent 50 years demonstrating that she's incapable of doing so. And yet you go back looking for mother love and get your script ready. Or going back to the same guy, expecting to be treated differently, or the same lady expecting to be treated differently. You know, I mean, endless. And the classic case is when there's a couple who split, and then they come back together a month later, and then they split a month later, and then they come back together a month later, and when they split, their fantasy scripts say, well, I need this to happen. I need what he has for me and she has for me, so they come back together. And when they come back together, they're no different, so they read the scripts and they split. So pay attention to your fantasy scripts, because that's keeping you locked up in this mess.
I thought, when you get somebody and you're involved in this karmic dance, like you're reading their script, and they're reading your script, and you've got this going on. You're 100% responsible for what you're bringing to it. But they're responsible 100% for what they're bringing to it. Right? So therefore you're not 100% responsible for the whole event.
No, you're 0% responsible for their script event. You're 100% responsible for yours.
Okay.
Even though they may be getting these things.
Yeah. That's what I get. I'm getting a little mixed up on.
He needs to be 100% responsible for his event. The fact is that he's reading your script because you have it. Okay, you get that? The reason they're reading your script is because you have it. Okay? Right. And you're reading his script because he has it.
Right.
Okay, he's responsible for having his script, and you're responsible for having your script, and you both wrote your scripts ignorantly, and you're both powerless over reading the other one's script. So,
But so this means that throughout, this is where I'm getting the confusion. Like for instance, like Adele, I have early infancy script, events, at birth, in fact, and so I'm putting out my script, but they're putting out their script, and in this event. So they're responsible for theirs, and I'm responsible for my part of it. That's where I get a little mixed up.
Let's talk about it personally.
Oh, okay.
How do you know they're having a script event? Just because they're reading you're an infant, you don't know whether they're in the script or not. Maybe they're just powerlessly reading your script. The fact that they're doing something diabolical doesn't mean they're in a script. It might just mean that they're powerlessly reading your script. And it really doesn't matter what they were doing. All you need to do is accept responsibility for bringing that script in with you and attracting the script reader. Usually it is your parents or your children or your spouse. We're not together by accident. We're together to scripts and go spiritually.
Is managing and carrying our scripts part of this, or are we going to do that later?
We'll get there later. All we're doing this week is analysis and responsibility. Responsibility is the big work. It's the big work. That's going to be the big work from now until you can do it. And but the caveat is also be alert for fantasy scripts. Be alert for fantasizing, because they're giving you false hope and they're sustaining the script.
Whenever I have, I don't know why but it's helping lately. Whenever I have any dialogue or any emotion, it's mine.
Yes, absolutely.
Anything going on in my head.
Absolutely. Your mind. Yeah. Your consciousness.
In whatever percentage I don't believe that is where the key is.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah. So 80-20 is
Better than 0. This is a tough one, and this is not for the work, and it's really great that Tony scheduled his workshop so that we could work on this for 2 weeks. It's going to take us 2 weeks to come up to speed on this, but read it every morning. Remind yourself what we're doing here, because you need to really stay focused on this if you're going to make the breakthrough that I hope you can, and watch them powerfully reading your script. Get it. If they're powerlessly reading your script, it's impersonal, by the way. We'll get to that in another step, but the fact is that if they're powerlessly reading your script, they might not even mean it. Just like you will find yourself powerlessly reading somebody else's script and you didn't really mean that. You just find it coming out and bubbling out of your mouth. what looks like them victimizing you might be that they're just powerlessly reading your script and they don't believe it either. So get on to this one. Pay attention to it. It's a good one.
I have a question, a quick question. A lot of times, Jay will hear something that I never said or meant, or it's always interesting. And so even when the script isn't said, I'm thinking now that I hear my script or read it to myself when it's not even happening. So, no one's powerless, they're not even doing it, but I'm reading it or hearing it. It's really interesting.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like Steve just did a load of clothes the other day. Most people think that's a really nice thing, right? But if I'd been doing nothing on top of that, we wouldn't have to do it, so it was on my...
If somebody walked in the door right now and shouted something, if somebody walked in the door right now and shouted something, 5 of us would get our script read and 15 of us wouldn't, you know? And the guy, maybe he's incoherent, you know? You know? But those of us who had the predilection would get our script read. A guy who doesn't know any of us. And 5 of us would think he doesn't think we're good, and he doesn't think I'm good. He thinks I'm not good enough. It's for the stranger. 5 of us would think he doesn't think I'm good enough. Let's get quiet. That's enough for today. Good work, everybody. 2 weeks till the next class. Okay, thanks for coming. I love you all. Good work, everybody.